Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you are all well on this fantastic Friday. And you're also looking fantastic. You need to tell me your secrets, because I'll tell you what, training all the time and cardio twice a day is taking its toll. It's hard work, but it will be worth it in the end. Healthier. Drink water. Stay hydrated. Anyway, that's the health bit out of the way. And now we're talking about something regarding the IDO 4 case. Surprise. Video 2 later, not about the IDO 4. Not really. Indirectly, perhaps, but it's looking at Ted Bundy and Bryan Kohberger. So, yeah, I suppose it is. Anyway, let's get on with it. So, look, something that I just can't buy into in the Idaho 4 situation, and that is with regards to Bryan Kohberger himself. This is the thing that stops me from going balls deep into Bryan Kohberger's guilty, and what it is we just haven't seen enough. This is probably one of the main things that make me I can't get my head around it. And I suppose later on in video 2, that kind of is going to back up what I'm trying to say. Trying to back it up in a comparison between Ted Bundy and Bryan Kohberger. Because even though many people are trying to compare these two, they are very, very different. Very, very different. So look, I can't get my head around Bryan Kohberger doing all of the studying that he did, sinking himself into such a workload if his intention was always to throw it away. Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking to myself, if you was just a psychopath, do you know what I mean? Which you could argue you would have to be in order to have the stones to go into this house in this manner, armed with just a knife, and pull off this crime, then you've got to be 2 sandwiches short of a picnic. Do you know what I mean? Because there's only certain things that will do this. You know, someone's got to have pissed you off to the point where you have snapped, you have flipped out and gone batshit crazy. And I mean in the moment. So I'm not on about being miles away and someone says something. I'm talking about this fraction of a second split you attack. And that's why things like the fraternity and the party and the argument and the issues that we have there have always kind of stuck in my mind as to be real, true potentials in what happened here. Because the crime itself, especially like I've alluded to previously, if the injuries sustained by Kaylee are accurate from what we've heard, and that's just fucking rage. That is out and out rage. That is anger. That is rage. That is, and some will like releasing the valve, so to speak. But like I say, you've got to be some kind of fucking psycho. And when I look at Bryan Kohberger and the journey of Bryan Kohberger, from what we can see, it would seem that Bryan Kohberger went through school and had a typical school. And I know there's things that they want to pick up on and say that he was bullied, blah, 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 and that's what tipped him off. But most people, unless they come from a privileged background, they are part of the in crowd, at some point they will find themselves being ridiculed in school. That's part and parcel of being at school. Again, you're either part of the popular bunch or you're not. And if you're not, then you're subjected to be in the lower ranks of school. And then you've got a hierarchy within that. You've got the bullies, you've got the fat kids, you've got the geeks. Do you know what I mean? And has anyone seen Breakfast at Tiffany's? Do you know what I mean? And this is, why did I even say that? Breakfast at Tiffany's? I meant the Breakfast Club. I'm pretty sure that's what it was, the Breakfast Club. But anyway, I suppose what I'm getting at is Bryan Kohberger's life has pretty much been, how can I say, unextraordinary. He's gone to school. Like I say, he's gone through the normality that any other child could potentially face. He got into the narcotics situation, and if he had proclivities of psychotic behaviour and murderous tendencies, you would think that at that point, when he is skewed by narcotics and the usage and the cravings and the want to get stuff, he would, in my opinion, at that stage, have flipped his shit. But the worst that this guy could bring himself to do was steal a phone from his sister. And this action would result in his father going to law enforcement to have that dealt with in the manner with which it was, which shows that the family operated in a specific manner. He wasn't beaten by his father. They didn't, his father was, he wanted his son to know this is wrong. And when you do something wrong like this, then you are dealt with in a certain way. And all these things don't, to me, go hand in hand with someone who would eventually grow up to get out of what they got out of, turn their life around in terms of the narcotic situation, and then go into this education system that would eventually pay him a healthy sum of money and tie himself into this. Because you can't turn around and say he did this in order to get closer to a victim, a specific victim, not unless he had his eyes on a specific person for many, many years. I can't... This would have had to have been a plan from when he was younger. And I can't buy into it. I can't buy into someone who has proclivities of being a dangerous psychopath and pulling off a murder, tying themselves into long-term education with a fruitful end, and then throwing it all away in this manner. That's what makes Bryan the outlier. When people talk about Occam's razor, and they're like, the thing that gets you to the conclusion with the least points in between. Like, many people think that that's Bryan Kohberger, but I don't see it as Bryan Kohberger. And I think in order to then find out that it is him will be a shock. It will be a shock. Again, I'm not turning around and saying Bryan Kohberger is innocent, because I can't sit there and say that. We done a live, didn't we? And I said, the best place you can be at the moment, if you've been paying attention, is to not know anything and to understand that there are shocks to come. And I think the biggest shock could well be that it is proven that he did it beyond a reasonable doubt. But I still, from what I've seen of both the case and of Bryan Kohberger himself, nothing fits for me. Like, people want to say he's an incel and things like that. I don't see it. I don't see that. The guy doesn't sit in that category. A loner. I don't see him as a loner. Every single fucking picture that we see, he's in a picture with other people who are seemingly having fun. Most of them being female. But that's the sticking point for me. The sticking point is trying to fathom why Bryan Kohberger would tie himself into long-term education and overcome some really sketchy points in his life, such as the narcotics use, and not break then. What happened to him now to put him in this position? Was it simply, and I know what people are going to say, he was losing his job, he was losing his position at the university. We don't know that. Not for certain. But would that have been enough? Would that have been enough? And even if it was that, even if he saw the whole lot come crashing down like that, and this was a case of my life is now fucking over, I've lost my work, my everything, my education, and that is the straw that broke the camel's back, why then not take that anger, which is obviously, like I say, that is a rage. What was the connection to Moscow, Idaho? Where did that factor into even that scenario? Something doesn't sit right here. Something doesn't work. And that's why I still have to keep an open mind. Why do you keep an open mind if you do keep one? And if you don't, what closed it for you? Let me know down below. And I'll catch you all in video 2.